Vanishing Folklore and Beliefs.
Dwarves in the Germanic Tradition, from the Fairy Mythology by Thomas Caillte. Public domain reading circa 1892. There was, it is said, in Prussian Samland, an innkeeper whom the underground folk had done many good turns. It grieved him to see what bad clothes they had, and he desired his wife to leave little new coats for them. They took the little clothes, but cried out, paid off, and went all away. Another time they gave great help to a poor smith, and every night they made brand new pots, pans, kettles, and plates for him. His wife used to leave some milk for them, on which they fell like wolves, and drained the vessel to the bottom, and then cleaned it and went back to their work. When the smith had grown rich by means of them, his wife made for each of them a pretty little red coat and cap, and left them in their way. Paid off, cried they. They slipped on the new clothes and went away without working the iron that was left for them, and they then never returned. There is, chiefly in southern Germany, a species of beings that greatly resemble the dwarves. They are called Wichtlein, little wights, and are about 3/4 of an ell high. Their appearance is that of old men with long beards. They haunt the mines and are dressed like miners, with a white hood to their shirt and leather aprons, and are provided with lanterns, mallets, and hammers. They amuse themselves with pelting the workmen with small stones, but do them no injury except when they are abused and cursed by them. They show themselves most especially in places where there is an abundance of ore, and the miners are always glad to see them. They flit about in the pits and shafts and appear to work very hard, though they in reality do nothing. Sometimes they seem as if working a vein, at other times putting the ore into buckets, and at other times working at the windlass, but all is mere show. They frequently call, and when one comes, there is no one to be seen. At Kuttenberg in Bohemia, the Wichtlein have been seen in great numbers. They announced the death of a miner by knocking 3 times, and when any misfortune is about to happen, they are heard digging, pounding, and imitating all other kinds at work. At times they make a little noise as if they were smiths laboring very hard at the anvil. Hence the Bohemians call them Hausschmeidlein, little house-smiths. In Istria, the miners set every day in a particular place a little pot with food in it for them. They also at certain times in each year buy a little red coat, the size of a small boy's, and make the Wichtlein a present of it. If they neglect this, the little people grow very angry. In southern Germany, they believe in a species of beings somewhat like the dwarves, called wild, wood, timber, and moss people. The wild people, the wood people, the timber people, and the moss people. These generally live together in society, but they sometimes appear singly. They are small in stature, yet somewhat larger than the elf, being about the size of children of 3 years of age. They are grey and old-looking, hairy, and clad in moss. The women are of a more amiable temper than the men, which last live further back in the woods. They wear green clothes faced with red and cocked hats. The women come to the woodcutters and ask them for something to eat. They also take it away of themselves out of the pots, but they always make a return in some way or other, often by giving good advice. Sometimes they help people in their cooking or washing and haymaking, and they feed the cattle. They are fond of coming where people are baking, and beg of them to bake for them also a piece of dough the size of half a millstone, and to leave it in a certain place. They sometimes in return bring some of their own baking to the ploughmen, which they lay in the furrow or on the plough, and they are greatly offended if it is rejected. The wood woman sometimes comes with a broken wheelbarrow and begs to have the wheel repaired, and she pays by the chips which turn into gold. Or she gives to knitters a ball of thread which is never ended. A woman who good-naturedly gave her breast to a crying wood child was rewarded by its mother by a gift of the bark on which it was lying. She broke a splinter off it and threw it into her bundle of woods, and on reaching home she found it was pure gold. Their lives are attached, like those of the hamadryads, to the trees, and if anyone causes by friction the inner bark to loosen, a wood woman dies. Their great enemy is the wild huntsman, who, driving invisibly through the air, pursues and kills them. A peasant one time, hearing the usual baying and cheering in a wood, would join in the cry. The next morning he found hanging at his stable door a quarter of a green moss woman as his share of the game. When the woodsmen are felling timber, they cut 3 crosses in a spot of a tree that is to be hewn, and the moss women sit in the middle of these, and so are therefore safe from the wild huntsman.